So we have our next speaker here, Hamid, and we mentioned before at the beginning of the session about systems, about school systems, and about school learning models, and about different things. And we've been talking about different ways of doing it. I don't know if you would like to Ludwig already introduced you before, and I would really like to have a conversation with you about the systems, right? And we can take as an example the Afghani system, right? And then maybe start thinking about the systems, models, activities, and these sort of things. But first of all, welcome. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yeah, Hamid, I come from Afghanistan, born in a couple, brought up in Pakistan, studied in India and in Germany. So I look forward for my PhD also in migration education. Yeah, well, Afghanistan, I think as you know, is going through hardship conflicts. Since I'm born, before I come to the world, Afghanistan was in turmoil of the invasion. But I was always, or I'm still curious and enthusiastic about the education system in Afghanistan, how that could be changed. But looking at the history, Afghanistan education system got a flagship ambitious vision from King Amanullah Khan in 1919 to 1929. He was influenced from the socio-economic development in Europe, particularly the democratization process in Turkey, in Atatürk. So that has motivated him to have some changes in reform. I think change is part of our human beings. We are all somehow have relationship to change. We may have tried to change others, or we may have tried to change ourselves. Change can be can have success or can have failure. It can be good, but it can also be disaster. Sometimes we may want to changes, and sometimes we may want to resist the changes. So that is how coming back to this 400 years ago. Also, King Amanullah brought a reform. He introduced girls' education, so he made the compulsion of girls' education across Afghanistan, and he started to teach girls by himself and his wife, the queen. But that got a revolt, because every change goes through a process, and that reform comes from top rather than from bottom up. So that's from top. This was in a pace was too fast that the masses. Afghanistan is a traditional community, and it is also religious community. In the rural area in Afghanistan, so they are going. The king is going to convert our girls, and they are going to make an Islamic girls, because in his tenure he also sent some women to Turkey for further higher education. So that, I think, this to filter and process the change wasn't successful, and that he was led to leave the country. So that was the first phase of changes in the system in Afghanistan. The idea was to bring a modernization education system, and that will succeed, but at least he laid the foundation that time. That the process got paused. Then in 1950s, 60s, 70s, King Shah, he tried with slowly but gradually got the momentum, and in the 20 years of mid 50 till mid 70s, a lot of women got literate, prominent. They got much participation in the public sphere, particularly the health and education sector. And that was also not seen very good, particularly by the political and traditional and religious leaders. A threat to their dominance. They say, okay, when the women are literate and they're self-conscious, that will be a threat to our traditional values. But that was the time that the religious leader was in a motion to go against these changes. In 1979 was the invasion of the Soviet Union. After 2 years, I also it took a twist of this reform in education, twist through to counter the invasion. It was more communist ideology. The regime was from the monarchy changed into the communism, and that through the support of some countries.
More indoctrinating.
To indoctrinate the young generation, young people, in order to fight back the ideology. So the idea was always put a back hold, or I would say took a back step. Rather to get modernized, we got indoctrinations, ideology-based, to defeat the Soviet Union forces, Red Army in Afghanistan. 80s till 2000, we were having ideological indoctrination in our education system.
So a political tool.
Genau, yeah. So education is used, a political tool, as the Michel Foucault says that political education system is a means, political means, in order to maintain or mold the appropriateness of discourse, of the knowledge, the power that they bring with. So that is how it is used, a political process. And that was in 2000, 2001 and 2. It was restarted, the process of modernizing, opening, and having a tolerant. And now, last year, I took a U-turn again with the overcoming of Taliban, the over Kabul, Afghanistan. So the system of education will be also molded more radically based on Islamist concepts. If though Islam also says about the girls' education, what I fear is the power, the patriarchy system in Afghanistan, and also that the more girls and women get educated, the greater the problem will be to stop them, because they will ask for their rights, and that is not considered as a good sign. Yeah.
I have a question. Listening to these rapid historical summary of the education system and all the ups and downs and turns that it had, how was your learning experience? You've been a student in Afghanistan, you've been a student in India, you've been a student here in Germany. How has that journey been, personally, and which are like the differences and also the common elements that you can identify in all three systems? I don't know if you've been students somewhere else and you are actually also teaching, right?
Yeah, on an ad hoc basis, on and off. Yeah, I did my master's in bachelor in India with the intention to go back to Afghanistan and to contribute. Luckily, I got the chance to working experience with the young IDPs people, internally displaced people, persons from northern Afghanistan. So I was thinking about how we could have a fair, open, just society. In just society, to have a just society, we need to have through a positive education. And I was thinking what kind of education we needed. Education rather to teach already adults. I focus on the young people. I was working with the young people in Afghanistan. So
let's start with your own experience when you are a child, going to school, and your primary school. How was that, and how was, as you grow, older, how do you feel your own experience, and then now that you are on the other side, how it works?
I think that was in the camp, refugee camp in Pakistan. So we were, our texts were predominantly based on the revolutionaries and also to how to counter the communist ideology in Afghanistan. We were prepared, we were more about guns, more about violence, more about jihad. Jihad is the Arabic term, it means struggle. Jihad could be the biggest jihad is to fight within self, within own conscience, in order to purify yourself. But that jihad, that's the violent jihad, is about the self-defense. So that was glorified. That was the need to. But my mind was not to go for my. I was young, but my senior, they used to go and participate in that jihad in Afghanistan. But I was, since childhood, I was thinking about, there has to be a non-violent way. How this non-violence I strengthened within myself. From the beginning, I was not sure this violent way of change in Afghanistan. I was trying to find a way in that, I think, inculcated in me from the childhood, and particularly from my family teaching as well, that there has to be a non-violent way, because the power of pen has more stronger than the power of gun. It brings destruction, but the pen could also maybe, it's subjective, but the learned person could also deal better than the one who holds the gun.
Great. And then you moved to India.
Yeah.
Right? How is this system in India? How was your experience in India? How is it different? Is it, of course, you are older, right? And how you perceive it?
Yeah, I think the Indian education culturally is not so quite different. There are some differences, but with languages, I already know some Urdu, but the education system where I brought up in refugee camp was quite contrasting. I was very overwhelmed, and it was good, I think, but my mind was that I need to work hard to go back and make changes. What they brought me or gave me the education system in India, also the tolerance, particularly reading more about Gandhi, reading more about Ambedkar, reading more about Rabindranath Tagore, reading more about the Jinnah at that time, the Pakistan who struggled to independence, Allama Iqbal. So these prominent figures that I tried to read, particularly I was influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's teaching or his philosophy of truth, on violence. That really pushed me that, yeah, if you can, and through non-violence, through ahimsa, and satyagraha, in Indian they say non-violence and to be truthful, I think I could also try. And with that momentum, I think I was having in Indian, whenever I get a chance, I would work with young people through non-violence into means of humanity, respect, tolerance, and open society in Afghanistan. I think that what is in the values of what I got in India, that really made me different.
That's very interesting. It's an interesting journey. And how is it then coming to Germany and Europe, which is a completely different society, system, and system of values, ways of learning? How does it feel? I mean, because you have this journey that is mixed, right, with different approaches to learning and education, and so how is that transition into what you are here, like studying and learning in a different way?
I think that also was, it was not purpose, it was maybe destiny to be here in Germany. I was kind of compelled or forced to leave my country due to social political reasons. I was not intending to come to Germany, but the option that I had is I chose Germany because of the my attachment to Germany, to friends from India, and also was also keen to then to develop and also take part more learning in education, and that was a global political economy. This opportunity to study here. I think this culture of education system is quite different to India or Afghanistan. I've had some cultural shocks as well, but what I will stick to my principle of focus, discipline, and that one day I need to, with this mentality, I came that when I get the opportunity, I will go back to Afghanistan and contribute, because my ultimate aim was or is to contribute for the change and reform in Afghanistan that sustained for long, that is not subjected to radicalism, that is not subjected to extremism, that could also lead Afghanistan to peaceful life, and also to a life that anyone can come and also participate without fear of threats in Afghanistan. It is a challenging, it's great ambitious, I think not only by me, but by many others. So my aim is also here in Germany to connect myself with like-minded youth who come from Afghanistan, who have this ambitious to work together in Afghanistan for a peace and stable and prosperous nation.
And being now on the other side, because you have been teaching and you're working with young people nowadays, which are those elements that you think should be considered or should be the key for the future of learning, or the future of education, or the future of educational systems models? Which are those things that you think are essential, since you're working with the younger, the new generations, and you work closely with them, and you detect what they feel, what they need, and you understand like how the future goes, and how do you see that happening in the future?
Yeah, I think it's, I've had this experience back in 2002 to 2005, and I stick to that philosophy and concept is rather to impose idea, just create a space for children, young people to critique, to express their opinions, and also to think and reflect about it. And I did that, bringing the historical differences in the historical changes in Afghanistan. Just created a space for the children so that they could reflect upon and decided what is good and bad. When the children think about it and reflect about it, to measure and also to differentiate the good and bad, I think that the changes take place. So my idea is to be open, and also rather than to tell, to share, enforce. I would encourage them to experience yourself what is good and what is bad. You may make about it. So that is my concept, and also it's more about the humanity and the principle of humanity I carry with, that is respect and tolerance. And also Afghanistan is a traditional society. I also take advantage of Quran in Islam, because in Afghanistan it's said that it's meant like we are Muslim, God is with us, but God, Allah, is the first verse in the Quran says that I'm for all. And humanity is not for only Muslim, it's for all, Muslim, non-Muslim. He says, what you feel, what you good for yourself, it is also equally important, and the same what you feel for others, regardless of what it is. So these concepts of this immaterial assets that we have in our history, in our reasoning. So I try to reason with students, and that reasoning will master them, rather than that they should follow me or somebody else. They need to follow themselves the true path. The true path is by striving. Ijtihad, in Arabic, they say to struggle. You need to struggle and think and reflect, and you will find your way.
Okay, so we have some minutes left, and this is a tricky question that I'm going to do now. It's like, if you were the Minister of Education in Afghanistan, what would be your policy? What would you, let's say that suddenly you have all the power as a Minister of Education to make a change, right? So what would be the ideal school, or what would be the ideal educational system that you dream of in Afghanistan?
I think my decision or my policy or strategy will not be linear. It will be inclusive. I will have a very grand consultation with the linked ministries, and also with the communities, stakeholders, all the stakeholders, based on the collective decision. Our aim will be when I'm minister to have an inclusive education that no section of or no part of the communities, children or youth are left out from education. And I will also try that my personal ambition would be that state remain neutral, not interfere in the education system. Let the education experts, let the education go, the stakeholders, those who are part of the education decide in themselves. We will be there to contribute what the support is needed, particularly also to make it innovative, to make it participative, to make it sustainable. We need the all stakeholder so that the decision will be bottom up. It will be a very steady and comprehensive process rather than what the history of the last 100 years was from the top. It will be more from bottom, and then the top will also be included. So that would last for long, and also that will lead to a change in Afghanistan. So unless we don't have inclusive education system policy, we will struggle.
That's great, and actually that connects with many of the ideas that we've been, going around during this post-institutional cafe, and that we also run at La Innovation Kitchen back in Barcelona. It's a set of coincidences. I think we have already our next guest speaker here. Do we?
She's online.
She's online. Okay. So just to wrap up and be able to. So what would be your last message? What would be like your final words for this intervention?
Yeah, my wish and the appeal for those who are the power holder is please don't stick to your personal egos or interests or rage. Just let's prevail the common sense. Quran also says, and ask yourself what you have done to yourselves, that because you are responsible now for the change in Afghanistan, and what the Quran says, you believe in Quran. Quran says education is for all. Let the girls, let the women, everybody, regardless of gender, regardless of sex and class, to have an inclusive education. And please also to not interfere and let those who are part of the change to decide what policy has to be forward. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Hamid, and thanks for being with us today and enlightening us about how things work in Afghanistan.
Thank you.